Today I'm going to make some miniature Pokemon cards and accessories which I'll use with this Ninja Turtle action figure. Then I'll take everything and put it into a Pokemon-themed diorama which I'll take a photo of to create an awesome piece of art. You're going to want to stick around to see how this turns out. What's going on, everyone? This is Dwayne Shoots Toys, and today I've got a fun diorama project for you that is centered around Pokemon cards. They were hugely popular back in the day and now they're blowing up all over again, so I thought, why not incorporate them into one of my art pieces? Now, we're not just going to make regular Pokemon cards, we're going to make some miniature PSA graded cards. These cards have a protective plastic slab around them and then some grading information on top, including a grade from 1 to 10. Some of the higher end graded cards are going for hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is absolutely crazy. I'm also going to make a few other miniature accessories, including a booster box of Pokemon cards, some individual packs of Pokemon cards, as well as a miniature binder filled with cards. The goal is to make these items small enough to use with this quarter-scale Michelangelo figure. This toy is made by a company called NECA, and it's one of my all-time favorite action figures. It looks as if they just grabbed it right out of the Ninja Turtles movie and made it into a toy. But anyway, let's stop wasting time and get right into the project. Alright, so in order to make some miniature Pokemon cards, the first thing we'll have to do is find a way to copy these images into my computer. Now, there are a few different ways that we can do this. The first method is to take photos of the cards with the camera and then copy those images onto my hard drive. The second method is to scan the cards in with my scanner. This will give me a higher quality image, but it will take more time to do. And finally, the third method is to just download some pre-scanned images from the internet. There are tons of images available on Google, so you can pretty much find anything you want on there. I used a combination of all three methods to get the images that I wanted, and then I imported them into Photoshop to make some minor fixes. And then when it was time to print them out, I scaled them down to a smaller size. These cards are just over 2 centimeters in height, and they were printed onto matte photo paper. You could also print them onto glossy photo paper, but I just find that the ink smudges a bit when I do that, so I prefer the matte finish. After cutting them out, I glued the sides together using a glue stick. And there we have our first raw Pokemon card. I also printed out both sides of the PSA grading info and glued them together as well. And now we're going to need to create a plastic slab for the graded card. For this, I'll be using some clear acrylic sheets. You can get them in various thicknesses from your local hardware store or craft store. I'll be using a couple of different sizes for this project. These are approximately 1 to 2 millimeters thick. Before cutting, I'll strip down the protective coating and I'll lay down one of the cards to help determine the size that I want to cut the acrylic at. And I'll be cutting them with this Plascolite knife that I got from the hardware store. It works really well for cutting this kind of material. Every time I run the blade down the sheet, it strips off a tiny bit of acrylic, so I'll repeat that a few times, and the goal is not to cut all the way through, but to score the surface just enough so that you can snap the piece off cleanly. It's very satisfying when the pieces snap off like that. Make sure to wear glasses when you're doing this just in case, and if you have a clamp to hold the ruler down in place, that will help as well. I didn't have one, so I just did it by hand. So these were the little pieces of acrylic after I cut them down to the desired size. Next, I'll use some clear glue on the back of the card to stick it to one of the acrylic pieces. In this case, I'm using a thinner piece of acrylic for one side and a thicker piece for the other, mainly because the thin piece has a bit more flex to it, which will allow it to bend a little bit and adhere to the thick piece more easily. Now, to glue the top piece on, I used some clear Gorilla Glue. I know there are some cements that are specifically made for acrylic, but I didn't have any, so I just used what I had lying around. After putting the glue on the surface, I placed the other piece on top of it, and then I placed a weight on top of everything to add some pressure, and I let that sit for a few hours. After it was finished, it ended up looking like this. There were a few little glue bubbles visible through the plastic, but overall it was good enough for me. So the next thing we're gonna make is a miniature booster box. Now, I don't own one of these myself, so I'm gonna have to find some photos of the box online, and for me, the easiest place to find these photos is on eBay. I was able to find an eBay listing that contained some good photos of the box from several angles. I copied those into Photoshop, did some editing, and turned them into a printable template. I printed out the template in a smaller scale and cut it out, and then folded it together into a box. Then I cut up a few more pieces of acrylic for the case, and I glued them all together. This time I used crazy glue because it works very quickly. Again, if you have an acrylic cement, that would probably be a better option, but I did not have any. And after gluing the pieces together, I stuck the box inside, and there you have it. Alright, next we're going to make some individual packs of Pokemon cards, and once again, I don't have any of these myself, so we're going to have to find some photos of them online. I was able to find an image of some flat Pokemon pack wrappers through Google image search. I brought that image into Photoshop, made some quick adjustments, and printed it out in a smaller scale. I cut out the individual wrappers, and then I grabbed some aluminum foil. I laid the images down on the foil and then placed some clear tape on top of them. This not only adheres the images to the foil, but gives them a glossier finish. Once they were taped down, I cut out each piece, leaving some foil at the ends, and then I folded them over and glued the backs together. I trimmed off the excess foil, and finally, to get that crinkled look, I used a fine-tooth comb and ran it across the foil. And here is the end result, which I'm pretty happy with. Okay, one more major item to build is a miniature binder of Pokemon cards. If you collected cards of any kind back in the day, you probably had one just like this, so let's make a miniature version of it. I'm going to use this old notebook cover for the binder. I'll cut it up into the size and shape that I want. Then I'll lightly score the center so that the sides of the binder can fold up a little bit. Next, I'll cut out a small piece for the center of the binder, and I'll wrap it in aluminum foil to make it look metallic. I'll glue that piece to the notebook cover, and then I'll also cut up some clear sheet protectors for the pages of the binder. And I'll cut up these little edge pieces to use as separators for the individual cards. Then I'll start sticking some cards into the sheets and lightly gluing them on. This is what a finished sheet looks like. I'll make some rings for the binder using paper clips that I'll cut and bend into the desired shape. And finally, I'll glue everything together to end up with the finished miniature binder. Okay, so we finished building all the main elements of the diorama. Now let's build the actual room itself. I wanted to make a shelving unit to hold some Pokemon memorabilia, and for this I used some foam board that I got from the dollar store. I cut it up into several pieces, and I wanted the shelves to have a slightly off-white color, so I printed out this sheet and wrapped it around each piece so that they look like this. Then I used my hot glue gun to glue all the pieces together. And this is the shelf that I created. For the floor, I wanted to use something that looked like carpet, so I got this fabric from the fabric store and laid it down. For the wall, I stuck this blue piece of paper onto some foam board, and then I glued a bunch of mini Pokemon posters onto it. This is how it looked. Now I just needed to fill the scene up with a bunch of accessories. I had several mini Pokemon, many of these came from capsule machines, as well as a few mini magazine covers and some boxes that I made myself. Things like the original Game Boy boxes, Pokemon cereal, and Pokemon mac and cheese. I was able to arrange everything together to complete this diorama. You can see all the little cards and details in the scene. Finally, after things were where I wanted them to be, I grabbed my camera and took a photo to end up with this. Here is Michelangelo in his Pokemon-themed bedroom. I'm really happy with the way this shot turned out. This was probably one of my most time-consuming projects so far because I had to make a lot of items for it, and many of these items were things that I hadn't made before, so there was a little bit of experimentation involved. But I definitely want to do more projects like this in the future because it was so much fun. Let me know what else you'd like to see me make and what other kinds of videos you want me to do. Do you want 3D printing videos? Do you want action figure reviews? Whatever it is, leave me a comment, and also go visit me on Instagram, TikTok, and all other social media at Dwayne Shoots Toys. I've got a whole bunch of other content on there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.